Mind hacking might sound like a science fiction topic, but actually there's a lot of instances of this in nature if you know where to look. So in this video, I'm going to talk about 3 different examples of mind hacking, how that relates to human beings, how we can be mind hacked. And lastly, I'm going to share with you 2 concrete tech solutions to patch up your own psychosecurity and make you less vulnerable. So I've got 3 examples to share with you of mind hacking in nature, and the last one is something that I learned in medical school that blew my mind. It's pretty wild. So the first thing I learned has to do with an Australian beetle called the jewel beetle. Ecologists wake up one day in Australia and realize there's a population of beetle that went from healthy and normal to near extinction. Their numbers plummeted. And so they started to wonder what is going on here. They went out into the field and they discovered that there was a beer bottle that a company had recently started making. And when they went out there, they'd find that there are these bottles, and swarming all over the sides of these bottles were the male beetles of this population that was beginning to drop. What they noticed is kind of interesting. The female beetle is a lot bigger than the male. It's orange and it has these little dimply spots on its back. And you'll notice, looking at the picture of the beer bottle, it looks kind of similar. And so, totally by accident, we ended up creating something that a male beetle would see as the most attractive female beetle it had ever seen. And it copulated with this beetle to the exclusion of all the other females. And it nearly drove the species extinct. Now this has a happy ending. The beer bottle company ended up changing the texture of the bottle and saved the population of the beetles. So that's one example. Another example, which is kind of similar, has to do with baby sea turtles. As you might know, the eggs are laid in beach and deep under the sand, and when the sea turtle hatches, it comes up and it uses the moon and the reflection of the moon on the ocean to tell it where to go, because it needs to get into the ocean. But if a baby sea turtle is born near a parking lot, and that parking lot has a light, and that light looks somewhat like a moon, it can get confused. And you have baby sea turtles that'll make their way to the parking lot instead of to the ocean. You've probably heard of the zombie ant. There's a fungus called the cordyceps. Actually, the exact word, so the exact name for it is Ophiocordyceps unilateralis. I'll call it cordyceps. It's a parasitic fungus, and it can infect an ant. There's a little spore floating in the air, and it lands on an ant. Now, an ant has this hard, rigid exoskeleton, and these spores have little enzymes in them that will burrow into the exoskeleton and get inside of the ant. And when it does this, the ant stops acting like a normal ant. Normally, an ant will follow these pheromone trails, and you've probably seen the lines of ants. But with this fungus infecting them, they'll start to act kind of erratically and stop following that scent, and they'll start wobbling around like a zombie. Eventually, when the fungus has consumed a lot of the insides of the ant will have this urge to make its way up to a higher point, and it will put a vice grip of its jaws onto a stick or a twig or something and give this cordyceps mushroom a place to shoot out of the ant's head. It's pretty creepy and wild that it can force the ant to do this, and the ant probably has no idea that it's infected. Now, if you were to Google search this sort of thing, you'll find lots of examples. We've got examples of humans doing this to animals accidentally. You've got lots of examples of organisms doing it to each other. Now, this last example has to do with humans, but it blew my mind. This is something that is in medical school that you have to learn. It's an illness that humans can have called toxoplasmosis, and it's caused by this organism called Toxoplasma gondii. So the way that the life cycle of this Toxoplasma gondii organism works is it alternates between living in a rat or a mouse and living in a cat. The cat is going to have this organism inside of it, and it's going to excrete eggs of this organism, and the eggs will make it into the rat or the mouse. The toxo is in the mouse or the rat, and it needs to get back into the cat somehow. So what does it do? Well, it will reprogram the mouse to see a cat not as a threat, but the mouse will find the cat even sexually attractive. And so it will put itself out there, make itself vulnerable to a cat, which is going to eat it. So it's a wild 180 in behavior, and the cat will naturally eat the exposed mouse, and then that's how the toxo makes it back into the cat. The life cycle continues. Now, it gets even weirder because humans can get involved. Humans that have cats, those cats will will poop in litter boxes, and humans that are cleaning up that feces will sometimes get infected by the spores themselves. When it gets into a human, that's a dead end. The cat's not going to eat the human, but it can infect the brains of human beings. There's one study that I learned about in medical school, this is the mind-blowing one, where the question becomes, what kind of an effect does toxo have on humans? And the study that I'll never forget has to do with motorcycle accident victims. They would examine the brains of those people who had been involved in motorcycle accidents and found that the incidence of people who had toxo was way higher than the normal population. So they did a bit more digging and they found out that it's likely that toxo will cause humans to take risks that they otherwise wouldn't take. They'll engage in risky behaviors like motorcycle driving, probably speeding, and other risky behaviors. And so this is an example of a human being caught up in this, where our decisions, I mean, you can imagine driving a motorcycle or engaging in certain activities, maybe gambling, that you're engaged in and you're trying to rationalize to yourself. It could be that your mind is being influenced by a totally different organism that you're not even aware of. And so the reason why I bring this up is that these are examples of minds being taken over, hacked within nature. Some of them are accidental, some of them are organism on organism, and some of them involve humans. Through no real fault of our own, and sometimes through our fault, we'll have humans that are manipulating each other. I know I've been manipulated before, and sometimes we have tech that will do it as well. We're really incentivized to create products that will hold attention for as long as possible. And so you don't have to look very far. Social media is a great example. It's designed to hold our attention and to give us dopamine kicks. We're already developing devices that will hack into our minds. And so this is only going to get more serious, and it's something to keep in mind as the tech is progressively getting better. And so I wanted to share 3 ways that I use to enhance my psychosecurity. Now, everybody has psychosecurity. It's the barrier that you put between yourself and whatever's trying to influence you. The first step in understanding and improving your psychosecurity is understanding where your vulnerabilities are. The first thing that I wanted to share is a method that you can use, at least on the iPhone, to drain all of the color away from the apps on your phone. The rationale behind this is that we, as primates, we have a mechanism in our minds that it's really good at picking out bright colors in a non-bright background. So this would be like spotting ripe fruit in a tree or ripe berries in a bush. Now that's being re-engineered and put into phones to have these bright apps and bright videos. If you drain that color from your phone, you'll be surprised, at least I was. I really can't stay on apps like Instagram or YouTube for all that long if I've drained the color out of the app. So it's kind of tricky to find, so let me walk you through it. So you're going to be on your phone, and the first thing you're going to do is look for settings. In my case, my settings are right there on the right-hand side. Click on that. You just opened your settings. You're going to scroll down until you get to accessibility. Click on that. Scroll down just a bit, and right there it says display and text size. Click on that. Now scroll all the way down, and that third from the bottom, you're going to see color filters. Click that, and then you turn it on. Now, for some reason, it's not showing grayscale on the recording, which is strange, but it will show up grayscale if you do it. The other solution I wanted to talk about was an extension that I use on my browser. I use Safari, but you can find something like this for just about any browser. It helps with YouTube. I use YouTube all the time, and I've learned a lot of things from YouTube. So it's a great tool, but the problem that I find with it is that I'll sometimes see all of the suggested videos and find myself on a rabbit hole where I'll find something so interesting and curious. Before I know it, I'm watching a video that, if I'm honest with myself, it's not that useful to me, and it's preventing me from executing on the things that I know I need to execute. What this extension does is it blocks all of the suggested videos, essentially turns YouTube into just a search engine. So you can still use it, and you can type in what you're looking for and find the content creators you care about, but it decreases the likelihood of you burrowing into some rabbit hole that you didn't want to go down. So let me show you how to do that. All right, so the extension that I use is called Focus for YouTube. Look it up on Google, Focus for YouTube. Go to the App Store, it should come up pretty quickly. And what will come up is this. And so you'll download it. You get a very simple checklist here. Let's see if I can expand it. A checklist of what you'd like to block. And so this is the way that I've configured it. You can configure it however you want. And then when you go onto YouTube, you can see that it doesn't hit you with all of these videos immediately, and you start to forget what you even came there for. So now you can just search for something. Like I started to watch Sam Ovens recently. Let's focus, Sam Ovens, great creator. Let's say I want to watch this video. That's what I'm looking for. He starts doing his thing, but I just want to show you as I scroll down. Normally on this right-hand side, you'd have all of the suggested videos, but there's nothing there. And so you can really just focus on this one video, get what you want, and then come out of it. And then the last point number 3, it's not technical, but this has been a game changer for me. I like to think deeply about things. I'll often have problems in business and life that I'm trying to solve. If I hold on to that problem too tightly for too long, my thinking starts to narrow, and then I can get caught into these loops and get quite frustrated, and I can spend a lot of time on something. And so what I found to help that is actually to completely unplug and step away from work, and not just step away and kind of sit nervously on the couch, like taking a break, but actually get outside, walk around, and train my mind to stop thinking about thoughts, but actually to be concentrating on sensations. So I'll be walking along the beach and I'll be feeling the sand on my feet, the sun on my skin, and I'll feel the wind go through my hair. And I'll just notice these things, and it takes my mind off of whatever it is that I'm working on. And then something miraculous happens. It's as if I've got this clenched fist around the problem, and by focusing on other things, I take my mind away from it, and it begins to relax a bit. And what I've found is that when I can do that, what often happens is that as soon as I'm relaxed around that idea, there's room for new ideas and new material to then start presenting itself. And it's been the case for me a few times now that new material was exactly what I needed. And all of a sudden I can find problems much easier to solve. That's helped me to get out of loops and dead ends. So psychosecurity is a big deal. Always has been, but now it's becoming much more of an issue, especially with tech. I hope you found these examples thought-provoking, and feel free to implement them.